Thank you, Deborah, for blessing us with your amazing voice. I'm a big fan of Opera Symphony and Broadway. If anybody want to go to any of those shows, just give me a call. I'm always up for that. Hello, amazing beings. My name is Marie Hilaire Cherilyn, and the question here that was asked of me to talk to you is, how did I find science of mind? What does it mean to me? Do you have 10 hours? Because I could talk about it all day, but I am going to make it as quickly as possible. When I think about it, science of mind has been part of my life for a long time. When I was 21 years old, I was in the military, which was only 2 years ago. I'm only 23. And so, in the military, if you have any experience in the military, people have roommates when they're in the military. So my roommate was really loud all the time. So the way I would go and get time to myself is go to the library. So one day I went to the library and this book fell off the shelf. And I looked at it, and the title was As a Man Think by Rudy Allen. And I thought that was very interesting, so I read it, and it blew my mind. The idea of my thought creating my reality, I have never heard of that before. So that was the first nugget, I would say, of science of mind. And after I got out of the military, I got bit by the entrepreneuring bug. And I wanted to start a business. So I started hanging out around people who were business owners. And one of the books almost, I would say 60% of entrepreneurs read. I'm sure you're familiar with the sayings, leaders or readers. So, entrepreneur people read a lot. So everybody told me, you need to read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I read the book, my mind was blown away again. And so when I think about it, those two books really were science of mind. That's what it was. Fast forward, 7 or 8 years later, my friend Ophelia, who's been my friend for 13, 14 years now, she's a socialite type of person. She goes everywhere there is a VIP event, she will always be there. The way I met her is because every time I would go to a VIP celebrity event, I would see her over 5 or 6 years in a row. And if I went to a VIP event 3 times a year, I would see her. And one day I had the courage to go up to her and ask her, my name is Marie. I see you every time I go out to a VIP celebrity event. Who are you? She said, I'm Ophelia. I'm kind of a big deal in San Diego. She said, her friend laughed at her. And I said, we must have the same thing in common because I see you everywhere I go. So we became friends. And every Saturday night and Friday night, she would call me, we'd go out and just have fun. 8 or 9 years later, she was invited to this lecture, and a friend was going to go with her, and the friend canceled last minute. And Ophelia is a socialite. Everybody love her. She looks like she just walked out of a modeling type of magazine. She's magnetic, and you can spot her from a group of 100,000 people. So when she goes out, people give her everything. That's why I love to go out with her, because I don't have to pay anything. So when Ophelia calls, I'm always there. So she said, hey, Marie, I know it's last minute. I was invited to this lecture. Would you go with me? It's called The Mysticism of Money. And I was like, I knew money was mystical. So I said, yeah, I'll go. It's very interesting that the weekend I was supposed to go to LA, but I changed my mind and decided to stay home and relax. So it was a Saturday, April 17, and the lecture was gonna be at 7 p.m. And she picked me up, and we went to the center called the Celebration Center in Sorrento Valley. And the pastor back then was Reverend Ruby Warren. I don't know if you know her. So the moment I walked into the center, the artwork, I think Reverend Ruby is like a world traveler. She has Thailand type of artwork, Dubai, and mystical places that you read in your geography book when you were a kid. And my Catholic mind, which the reason me and Ophelia were a friend because she's Catholic, we think the same way. My Catholic mind was saying, this is a bad place. My heart and my soul was saying, yes, 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 you need more of this. You need to know what it is. And I just, the energy, the people, like you guys, that's why I call you amazing beings. Something about the place, the people, made me feel this is home. So Reverend Roby has like her top 10 books or top 10 movies that she liked, and I bought the first two that caught my mind. The movies were The Secret and What the Bleep Do You Know by Joe Dispenza, or he's one of the actors in there. And then so we went inside the center, and Reverend Roby gave her talk, and although I didn't understand anything she said, you guys may not realize that, but as someone who's never been in Science of Mind, our words are very different. A lot of people don't understand them. She was using words like the power of now, reverence, and volition, and what you create, what you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So I didn't understand anything she said, but my heart and my soul was saying, whatever she said, I want more of that. Yes, 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 yes. So, by the way, my friend Ophelia hated the place. She hated the lecture, and she actually got mad when leaving. But I love everything about it, and I was hooked. My soul was asking for more and more and more. And so I stayed with that church for like a year and a half, and then they closed. And the way I can explain the way her word wakened me, my Reverend Moby word wakened me that day, it's like when you were a kid and your brother or sister wanted to play with you and you was sleeping, they would take cold water and splash it on your face to wake you up so you can play with them. That's how I felt. That's the way I felt her word touched me that day. So what does Science of Mind mean to me? Because of Science of Mind, I found my life purpose. I was definitely lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I saw Reverend Roby on speaking, something in me told me that's what I'm supposed to do. But she was a minister. I didn't want to be a minister. I kept saying no. But now as I've been Science of Mind, I've been to a lot of programs and classes, and now I know I don't have to be a minister. I can be a coach. So now I know I'm supposed to be a transformational coach and healer, and I want to awaken people just the way the words of Reverend Moby awakened me that day on April 17, 2013. It was a Saturday at exactly 7. I look at the clock, it's exactly 7:35 or 7:37. And the last word that she said that made me felt the click, I think she quoted Ernest Holmes. She said, and I think his quote is, there is one life. This life is my life, and this life is good, and this life is my life. And I felt like an energetic click. This is it. Thank you so much for hearing my story.
And now Vicki Goldstein will tell us her story.
Good morning, everybody. We didn't get a chance to ground into the day, so if you guys would like to start with a prayer with me, because that always helps me come into the moment and be here with you. So, Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for having us all here today, and as we take a deep breath and come into the room and know that we're all here for the greater purpose of finding ourselves and making the world a better place to be. We're so grateful for everything that you've shared with us, for everything that we have to live for, and just being here today. And thank you very much. Amen. All right. I have always been on the look for my spirituality. As a small child, I went around to all of my neighbors taking me to churches. I've been to them all, Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Catholic, probably stayed in Catholic and Baptist the most in my life, which was a very interesting cross for me. It let me know that God didn't live in churches, he lived within you. Because they were so steadfast that they were the only ones going to heaven, that it baffled me as a 10-year-old child to 15. And then I kind of quit going to church and just kept on my spiritual quest, I went on to become a holistic health practitioner, and I joined this Alpine Community Church in 1984 and went here for many years, and then I moved away down to the beach. And so on my spiritual quest, I I could never find the God that I believed in. The God that I believed in was so much bigger than any religion that I'd ever been to, that I just had the hardest time. So then I started seeking seminars. I went to the LIT Light, and I went to Psi, and I went to Byron Katie, and I went to Abraham Hicks, and all of them had a piece of what I knew God was. And, I would take pieces from everything and make it a part of who I was, because I know that what you think is who you are, and I always knew that. And I've always prayed for the good things to come to me and not prayed for the, I broke my leg, please help me not break my leg again, because you're just going to fall down and break your leg again, because that's what you asked for. So I always knew that wasn't how you prayed. And, it's kind of like I've survived everything, and we don't need to get into all of that story. And it's always been on the power of prayer. I'll give a small one. I was diagnosed with a terminal disease and given 2 months to live. But I knew that I was going to be okay. And I had every Catholic and every Mormon in the world praying for me to be okay. And I knew I was going to be okay, and it's now, that was in 2003, and this is 2019. I think I lived. So, I always knew that who you are in each and every moment is what you are. And I knew that spiritually. And I had a hard time living in life, so I don't know if you'll understand this part. But I never lived in my body. I always lived outside watching what happened to me. My spirit left my body. And I would always just be aware of what was going on, but it never really happened to me. And then, we'll go forward to last year, and my brother, it's 2 years ago, my brother retired and moved back home from Hawaii. And my brother participated in the Science of Mind Church, and we started going to the one downtown in Horton Plaza. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is how I think. Where have you people been all my life? I have found my tribe. Yay. And then last Halloween, my brother comes up to the church Halloween party, the Alpine Community Church Halloween party, and there's Reverend Gay inviting him to come up here. And so he says, come on, let's go to church. Let's go to the church up in Alpine. And I went, yeah, okay. And then I didn't know it was here. And when I moved to Alpine, I walked around to all the churches that were in Alpine. And this was the church that had the best feeling. The ground has something special. It feels like, for me, like you're home. This is the ground that I want to walk on. And so I was shocked when I found out that y'all were here. So not only is this the place I'm supposed to be in, but it's in my home. Whoa, I couldn't believe that. So my heart just went pitter-pat. And then I took my first class to understand the language. What is treatment and what is demonstration? That is how I have prayed all my life. I have never been so in touch with the God that lives within me as when I walked into this church. And there's been nothing better that's happened to me than when I walked into this church. So I took the basic class, and then the next class I took was little Uta Marie's class when she just came here to teach us about the Our Father. And for the first time in my life, my spirit went into my body in that class. So I get to live inside of my body today. My spirit and myself are connected for the first time in my life. And then I took the 4T Abundance class, and I learned a lot stronger of a way to make my prayers and to find my gratitude and to be grateful for each and every day. And that's my story. Thank you.
Really nice. Okay, and now we will hear from Hugh Bell.
Thank you, Ann. Good morning. Hi. So I've been in and around Science of Mind for over 35 years. And it's been a wonderful time for me. I didn't think it would take this long, but it did. And I'm still here working on it. I came into it kind of unconsciously. I had no idea about God, or I mean, it was just kind of a blank slate in a way. You're just not aware. But I was dating a girl who got me involved with the World Healing Center, which was a group of folks focused on spiritual growth around the Course in Miracles and rebirthing, which is a breathing exercise. And it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. I then spent the intervening years going to a variety of New Thought churches, almost all Science of Mind, very seldom Unity. But I was there with Terry Cole Whitaker and Sharon Stroud and Nancy Anderson, Carol Carnes, a lot of teachers. I feel so fortunate to have bumped into so many spiritual leaders that as I have. It's been a true blessing for me. And I remember so well one evening, it was a Sunday afternoon service. I don't know what I was doing there, but I was there with a friend of mine, and afterwards we sat on the steps of the church talking to the minister, who was an assistant minister at North County Church of Religious Science, I think. And it just became so clear to me how comfortable I was with everything that was going on around me in those churches. It was so many people say it's like finding your home, and it was exactly that for me. And so it's been a wonderful time. I'm a reader. I read a lot, and part of the reason is because I forget so much. I have to keep putting it back in there, and so I do. And it's a big part of my practice, and it helps me a lot. At this point, I'm thinking, well, what do I have? What's changed? And what I have is a body of beliefs. And they haven't come easily. It's been a struggle for me. And I remember the first time I seriously started to think about what I was being told, which was that I was in charge of my life. And the resistance that I felt to that was just staggering. It threw everything right back on the table. I mean, even God. I said, if he's supposed to be so smart, why in the world would he put me in charge of anything? You know, it was just, didn't make any sense at the time. And over time, the fact that we are responsible for our lives has been a belief that has grown and developed and matured and spread out. And what I find is that without this body of beliefs, the world just doesn't work, doesn't make sense. If you did not believe that you were an eternal being and you were here just on earth for this one shot, and you saw how unfair it was and how unreasonable it was and how heartless it was at times, dangerous, etc., it wouldn't make any sense. But when you put together eternality, there's no death. We're not going to die. We're going to be around doing this stuff for a long time. I'm responsible for the experience that I have. They all can go together in ways that are absolutely marvelous. And over time, I was thinking about this morning. There's a connectivity, and there's a formation of a network of thoughts and beliefs that begin to, for me, this is not the way I was going to say it, shelter me from the world. Like my belief that there is a force for good in the world. Everything that happens is for my benefit. What a huge thing for me to believe that people are just doing the best they can, that I don't need to blame anybody because I'm the one responsible. And over time, those kinds of beliefs create a buffer, which I've thought about a lot this morning as I was thinking about this, and during that period I had it put into words that were much better than these, but there's an aspect of this practice which is just marvelous for me at this point. I think of the spiritual path as an evolution of self-image, that along this path, one of the biggest, most important things that has changed is who I think I am. And recently, it's been huge. And I don't, it's all coming together in ways that I guess are perfect, but I'm finally getting it, that God is within me. And I've been reading Emerson, a lot of Emerson, and people that write about Emerson. And a big, huge step for him was coming to that same realization. And what I was reading the other night was that he called for a redefinition of what it meant to be human. That I've been thinking about humans, and they have a little bit of God. And the way he has put it and the way it's come through to me is no. My whole idea of what human beings are has changed. And we're divine beings, and it has come through to me in a way that is powerful and strong and hopefully long-lasting. One more incident, and then I was at a workshop. Well, it was a weekly Abraham class, and somebody said, talking about something that wasn't particularly great, and he said, well, it is what it is. And who has not heard that? And then a friend of mine was there, and she said, but what is it? And for some reason, it was like this chunk of rock just came down and settled in the perfect spot. It set up itself as a foundational belief that we get to name it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it however we want it to be? We can name it that way. And it was one of those things that has stayed with me for a long, long time, probably will never leave me. And is one of the causes of great hope for me. I don't know anything more important than be able to call the shots in your own life. So, other things that have meant a lot to me are the Course in Miracles description of a miracle, which is a change in perception. And I think about that a lot, and it's something that's very active in my life, where I can look at this differently. I don't have to see what I see. Which reminds me of the time I was told I was responsible for what I see. And at the time, no, get out of my face. I'm not going to take responsibility for what I see out there. Over time, that's changed. I do take responsibility now for what I see out there because I've put it there. So there's this evolution of awareness, evolution of beliefs that I think is magical, and I count myself very fortunate. One of the blessings I've had is just the people I've met along the way, and that includes you guys. I appreciate it so very, very much to have you in my life. So thank you. One other thing. I'm going to invite Med up here to do some sharing as well. His mother was the founder of the church. He has some thoughts about how he came into the practice, and so I think we can look forward to that, but thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning to all.
Morning, Ned.
That's quite a outgoing of love and inspiration, and I thank you all for doing that. Yes, my mother was the founder of this church 32 some odd years ago. She became a unity minister when I was about 18. I've learned about New Thought by osmosis more than anything else. I've not been a reader. I've taken a few classes, but not many. But I've embellished all of it from her and from Reverend Gay, and listening to Reverend Stevens' talks. Years ago, I would get his tapes and listen to those while I was in the darkroom doing photography, and it just resonated with me. So this whole perspective on life and religion and spirituality is centered in my heart. I always had these thoughts. I was raised, mother went to church. We lived a block away from Holy Trinity in El Cajon, and she went to Mass every morning as I was growing up. And when I got a little bit older, I'm going, if God is as big as they say he is, there's got to be more than one way. And I just never could accept the fact that they thought they had the only inside track. It just didn't make sense to me. And when Mother started studying unity and went through and became a unity minister, I remember one day, I think she was home. I don't think she had graduated yet, but in between. And we sat and talked for about 2 hours about a whole bunch of stuff. And it really resonated with me. And so that was the end of me going to Catholic Church. So, and Reverend Stevens had a big congregation down in Altadena. Mother worked for him after she graduated the Unity Village and ended up starting this church. She started another one up in Carlsbad, and then she did interim ministry throughout the country. And it just was part of my life. Reverend Gay and I had a wonderful marriage for a long time, but as most of you know, we've separated and divorced and gone our separate directions. For various reasons, we're not religious involved, but I support her in everything she does. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you to all our speakers. That was really enlightening. I love to hear from all of us. I wish we could do something like this more often. Okay, now it is time for our